welcome back to Author True Crime with me, a tired bitch. Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we are talking about another author behaving badly. They're also referred to as BBAs on the internet apparently, which is news to me, a book reviewer. Today we're going to talk about the ridiculous and horrible behavior that went unpunished of Kathleen Hale. Before there was Lauren Huff acting tremendously poorly on the internet, there was Kathleen Hale. And man, does Lauren Huff have a ways to go before she really hits rock bottom, if we're calling Kathleen Hale rock bottom. Which again, no repercussions, so this is wild. Alright, so back in 2014, this author, Kathleen Hale, published her YA book called No One Else Can Have You through Harper Teen. It is described by her as a girl with PTSD teaming up with a veteran to fight crime. The synopsis says, small towns are nothing if not friendly. Friendship, Wisconsin, population 688 is no different. Around here, everyone wears a smile and no one ever locks their doors, until that is, high school sweetheart Ruth Freed is found murdered. Strung up like a scarecrow in the middle of a cornfield. Unfortunately, Friendship's police are more adept at looking for lost pets than catching killers, so Ruth's best friend, Kippy Bushman— why does that sound like the main character in a 90s like sitcom? Like, alright, cue the laugh track. It's Kippy Bushman, everybody! Oh, Kippy. Armed with only her tenacious Midwestern spirit and Ruth's secret diary, which Ruth's mother had asked her to read in order to redact any, you know, sex parts, sets out to find the murderer. But in a quiet town like Friendship, where no one is a suspect, anyone could be the killer. Well, in a video like today, where is only one author doing stupid shit, only that author could be the stalker. That sentence really got away from me. Holy shit. Alright, so writing a piece for The Guardian in October of 2014, the same year that her book was published, the author— well, the Guardian piece says, "Am I being catfished? An author confronts her #1 critic." So I just want to point out that that title was likely written by Kathleen herself, just like the rest of the article, and it already does what Kathleen is going to do throughout. You're going to notice throughout this video that Kathleen likes to rewrite what happens to make it look like she's not as terrible of a person as she actually is. There's a good chance that she's like watching this video right now. I feel like she name searches herself more than Lauren Huff does. Hale confessed to reading advanced reviews of her work on Goodreads, which other authors warned her don't do, which is great advice. I sincerely wish that she had taken it. But as you will see, she was terrible before this all happened, so couldn't really be helped. And again, she wrote this article, and I take everything that she says as a version of what happened, but not the truth, because Kathleen Hale likes to write, including rewrite what actually happened. This book blogger was apparently like really popular at the time. Her name is Blythe Harris, at least that was her online name, which it is totally normal for a person online to use a pseudonym. I honestly kind of wish that I had chosen to go by a pseudonym, just because like there's a reason that none of y'all know my last name. I don't want people in my business, so I kind of wish that I had done that and created like an online persona to interact with my channel with, so that I would, you know, have like that separation. If I were to ever publish, I would publish under a pen name. Like, I want to keep my personal life and my work, if this is work, life separate, and that's totally okay. Apparently not to Kathleen though, because she considers that to be catfishing. She wrote this entire article to say that she had caught a catfisher. But first she lets you know that in the months before her book came out, she was obsessively looking at reviews, and one caught her attention, and it was Blythe Harris's review saying, you know, that it was not good. So I have some screenshots here where you can see that Blythe took issue with quite a bit of things in the book, saying that things like mental illness and PTSD, things like that, were talked about in a way that is not great. The F slur is used, as well as Blythe felt like there was some rape apologist talk going on, as well as making jokes about things that you shouldn't really make jokes about. And I think what happened, which Kathleen doesn't write this, but I think what happened was that there was some backlash from other reviewers where they weren't seeing eye to eye with Blythe. You can still see this in the comments of Blythe's review, which is still up but just says fuck this right now. Well, I think that Kathleen saw that and decided to act ridiculous. She says, I prowled Blythe's Instagram and Twitter. I read her reviews, considered photos of her baked goods, and watched from a distance as she got on her soapbox. I think she's talking about soapboxing as in talking about her book, which we're not soapboxing most of the time when we're reviewing books. We're just reviewing books. And like, if you are not putting a lot of energy into your reviews, people are not going to read your reviews. So if you love a book, you're more likely to get views than if you feel lukewarm, you know, like a 3-star review. If you hate a book, you're very passionate, so you're likely to get more reviews. It's not so much soapboxing as it is just speaking your feelings. So again, this is a small way in which Kathleen rewrites the narrative. Is just the way that she uses very particular words in order to create this version of Blythe. And I want to point out that Blythe never said anything publicly about this, has never talked about it. So like, the only version that we know of Blythe Harris as far as Kathleen depicts her is from Kathleen's own words, which is not great. So she claims that Blythe tweeted at her saying she had some ideas for her next book, and she replied, cool, Blythe, thanks. And that was like her first interaction with her. Got all of this information from her, which is like super weird. Her Twitter profile says she was a book blogger who tweeted nonstop between 6 p.m. and midnight, usually about the TV show Gossip Girl. According to her blogger profile, she was a 10th grade teacher, wife, and mother of 2. Her name was Blythe Harris. She had tweeted me saying she had some ideas for my next book. Cool, Blythe, thanks. She'd been asking Twitter for ideas, the weirdest thing that you can think of, to try to incorporate them into the sequel to her book, No One Else Can Have You. So she was curious if Blythe had actually read her book, and she looked, and she saw that Blythe had given it 1 star. Blythe said, I think this book is awfully written and offensive. Its execution in regards to all aspects is horrible and honestly non-existent. Blythe went on to warn other readers that my characters were rape apologists and slut shamers. She accused my book of mocking everything from domestic abuse to PTSD. I could say with utmost certainty that this is one of the worst books I've read this year, maybe my life. Other commenters joined in to say they'd been thinking of reading my book but now they wouldn't, or they liked it but they could see where Blythe was coming from and would reduce their ratings. So after listening to Kathleen be upsetty spaghetti, her mother apparently, allegedly, everything that I'm saying is alleged because I don't believe a word Kathleen says, her mother allegedly sent her to this website called stopthegoodreadsbullies.com. Oh man, it's too bad. Lauren would have really liked that. Blythe appeared on a page called Badly Behaving Good Readers, an allusion to badly behaving authors. BBAs, Athena Parker, who ran Stop the Goodreads Bullies, said, are usually authors who have unknowingly broke some rule. Once an author is labeled a BBA, his or her book is unofficially blacklisted by the book blogging community. STGRB, Stop the Goodreads Bullies, included Anne Rice, who campaigned to punish readers who post multiple bad reviews on Goodreads and other sites. Yeah, so STGRB has shut down. It's defunct. It's not there anymore. So that's hilarious. And Kathleen says, in my case, I became a BBA by writing about issues such as PTSD, sex, and deer hunting without moralizing on these topics. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. She says other authors have become BBAs for doing nothing, tweeting their dislike of snarky reviews, or supporting other badly behaving authors. She also claims that Blythe was involved in she claims that another author claimed that Blythe was involved in an online attack on a 14-year-old girl back in May 2012. The teenager had written a glowing review of a book Blythe hated, obliquely referencing Blythe's hatred for it. Dear haters, the review read, everyone has his or her personal opinion, but expressing that through profanity is not the answer. Supposedly, this person is an English teacher at a middle school near where I lived. People can get hurt. So again, this is trying to make the case that Blythe is a bad person and deserved what Kathleen did. I have no idea if that actually happened to a 14-year-old. I don't know. I have no, this was 10 years ago at this point. What I do know is that Kathleen stalked Blythe and showed up at her house and called her at her job. So yeah, that's illegal. This whole article should have just been, I stalked a woman because I can't handle criticism. The end. But no, this is the reasons why I stalked somebody. I'm not the problem. Literally, Kathleen Hale could just be summed up in that TikTok sound that's like, I'm not the villain, I don't think I'm the drama. She says that Athena, who ran Stop the Goodreads Bullies, claimed that Goodreads reviewers will actually bait authors into attacking them, which, okay, I think there's a reason why that website doesn't exist anymore. My notifications feed exploded after she good-naturedly was drunk on bourbon. Yeah, good-naturedly drunk. I love how she even rewrites her alcoholism in this. After watching Blythe tweet about her in-progress manuscript, I subtweeted that while weird derivative reviews could be irritating, it was a relief to remember that all bloggers were also aspiring authors. My notifications feed exploded. Bloggers who'd been nice to me were hurt. Those who hated me now have an excuse to write long posts about what a bitch I was, making it clear that reviews are for readers, not authors. When authors engage with reviewers, it's abusive behavior. Mean-spirited or even inaccurate reviews are fair game as long as they focus on the book. Yeah. My god, Kathleen, have you never hated a movie? Okay, so here's where it starts to get like outrageous and bad. So she spent this whole time talking about Blythe, right? And how bad Blythe is, but like in a really passive way, trying to make it seem like, oh, I'm just saying that, you know, Blythe, because that's not her real name, by the way, did all of this really shitty stuff, and I was just like really hurt for everyone else. It's like, okay, Regina George, we get it. So she was incessantly watching all of Blythe Harris's social media, and it dawned on her that Blythe Harris had like certain things about her. So like in one profile she said that she was an 8th grade teacher, and one she said she was a 10th grade teacher. Her book came out and she was like being asked about interviews, and a book club, which I don't understand how this book club works, but alright, asked her, they wanted an interview and asked that she pick a blogger. So she picked Blythe, which is why? So she picked Blythe. She said, I knew tons of nice bloggers, but I still longed to engage with Blythe directly. Because the book club was like, all right, well, typically we do giveaways, so why don't you like send out copies? She was able to, through the book club, get Blythe Harris's address, which, oh my god. So they gave her Blythe's address and she immediately looked her up on Google Maps. She says, the exterior of the house that showed up on Google Maps looked thousands of square feet too small for the interiors Blythe has posted on Instagram. According to the telephone directory and recent census reports, nobody named Blythe Harris lived there. The address belonged to somebody who I'll call Judy Donofrio, who, according to an internet background check, which was $19, was 46, not 27, as Blythe was, and worked as vice president of a company that authorizes disability claims. It looked as if I had been taken in by someone using a fake identity. IG chatted Patricia, this other author that she had been chatting about Blythe Harris with, and she said, I think we've been catfished. No, you have not been catfished. You have not. You talked to somebody who goes by a pseudonym. That's it. If I email, who wrote that mermaid book? Who wrote the mermaid horror book? This book. If I email this author, I could email her by several different names because she goes by several different pen names. A pen name and an online pseudonym to do book reviews under are not different. They're just not. And like, what does her age have to do with you? In fact, if anything, I could kind of understand the ageism because even I, as a 30-year-old, feel like I am aging out of the book community really fast. So like, it's not great to lie, but I can like understand. I'm not excusing lying, but I think that the worst offense here is definitely the stalking. Initially, Blythe said yes to doing the interview with Kathleen, but then Kathleen was like, let's do a video chat interview, and Blythe said no, and then eventually pulled out altogether, which shit, I would have too. This bitch is wild. So Kathleen claims that she was being catfished, and who better to talk to if you feel like you're being catfished even though you're not than Nev Shulman, you know, the guy who does MTV's Catfish. And she was like, should I tell my catfish that I'm coming beforehand? And he's like, yeah, you should. Duh, otherwise it's fucking stalking. I mean, he didn't say that, and he should have. He allegedly said to her, this is a woman who is used to sitting behind her computer and saying whatever she wants with very little accountability. It's book reviewing. Even if she hears from people she criticizes, she doesn't really have to look them in the face. She doesn't know she hurt your feelings, and she doesn't really care. How do you know she hurt my feelings? Kathleen asked. Because you're going to her house. This is so, what? Nev, oh my god, you failed. You failed so much right now to like prevent a victim of stalking. So after she, again, paid for a background check, found out that nobody named Blythe Harris lived at the address that the book club had sent her, that was apparently Blythe Harris's address, she decided to rent a whole ass car and drive to Blythe Harris's house, bringing along with her a book, Anna Quinlan's A Short Guide to a Happy Life, that she admitted she was going to leave there as a passive-aggressive attempt at something. And she said, well, it was better than leaving nothing. No, it wasn't. It wasn't better than leaving nothing. The best thing, the most betterest thing that you could have done was to not stalk this woman, no matter what her name is, no matter what she did on the internet. Nothing gives you the right to stalk somebody like this. But she did. She rented a car, she showed up at her house, she left a book on her driveway, claims that she saw somebody looking through the window through the curtains, and claims that she heard a dog that she assumed was Blythe Harris's Pomeranian that she had regularly posted to her social media accounts. Well, after all this, Blythe Harris quit blogging. She quit blogging in October of 2014 after, you know, this piece was put out, which, yeah, I can understand why, because it didn't end there. Kathleen continued to call this woman. She called her at her job and said, "Is this Judy?" She claimed to be a fact checker and said, you know, somebody is using your information as Blythe Harris. Do you know who that is? Allegedly, Judy on the phone said, "No, I don't know who that is. Yeah, I used to get books in the mail. I don't really get them anymore," and claimed that, you know, she was not Blythe Harris and didn't know what was going on. Kathleen claims, again allegedly, that Blythe Harris, as soon as she got off the phone with Judy Donofrio, Blythe Harris's Twitter was privated. So I don't actually know what happened, and it doesn't matter. Again, it does not matter, because this is a woman who is stalking another woman and then trying to make excuses for why it's okay. And I just want to point out real quick that she tells on herself, literally tells on herself. Because in 2013, before any of this happened, she wrote a piece on Thought Catalog in which she talked about the fact that a girl that she had known when she was 14 and the other girl was 14 had accused Kathleen's mother of molestation. So in response, instead of being a normal person, Kathleen decided to stalk the girl to a movie theater and then proceeded to dump an entire bottle of hydrogen peroxide onto the girl's head. No, I'm not kidding. The way that journalists talk about all of this with Kathleen is so odd. It's very blasé. It doesn't accurately depict what happened. It focuses so much on whoever Judy is, who Blythe is. That does not matter. The fact is, Kathleen Hale stalked somebody and got away with it. She regularly internet stalked, then showed up at somebody's house, left unwanted gifts at the house, and then repeatedly called this person until they stopped engaging on the internet the way they had before. And here's what I want to point out. Kathleen tries to paint it as if she and Blythe are somehow like on equal footing here. From the jump, authors and bloggers, reviewers, we are not on equal footing. We are not on equal footing. I can't stress this enough, and this is why. There's a power dynamic between authors and reviewers. You as an author have an agent and a publisher and a marketing team and an editor, people to help you, people in your corner, people to help you with your decisions. Bloggers, reviewers, we don't. We don't get paid for this most of the time. We're on our own. We're doing this when we have time to fit it. It's the way that we interact with, this is a hobby. This is a hobby for us, and that's a job for you. And you have power because you have money and people in your corner that we do not have. That is power. So the power dynamic is what makes this wildly inappropriate, and Kathleen should know that. She should know that because her husband is involved in publishing. I think so is her mother-in-law, and her father-in-law is majorly involved in network television. This story gets worse. I don't know if you think, how could it possibly get worse? Because there are no consequences for Kathleen, but there are more books. In fact, Kathleen decided to write a book about this experience called, I shit you not, Kathleen Hale is a Crazy Stalker. After receiving all of this feedback, there's a hashtag on Twitter called HaleNo. After making a blogger quit blogging, Kathleen still thinks that they were somehow on equal footing, even though she's publishing books and Blythe Harris no longer blogs. What? You stalked a woman until you silenced her, and then you wrote a book about it. Like, this is the scariest person on the internet for me. Like, that's actually like objectively terrifying. So she published Kathleen Hale is a Crazy Stalker in 2019. And it details what happened. It's a collection of essays. I refuse to read anything that this woman writes, even for shits and giggles, even for laughs. I just wanted to make this video to talk about. This is the worst possible scenario for a book blogger. Something that we do for fun on the internet could turn into a fucking nightmare. This is not the first time that an author has stalked a reader, but it is the first time that they have done it and then acted like they didn't really do anything wrong, and then try to rewrite it and successfully do so as if they were on equal footing, as if they were also a victim of something. Stalking somebody is, and that's what it is not a proportional response to getting a 1-star review from a Goodreads reviewer. It's just not. What she did was illegal. What Blythe did was just reviewing a book. And even if we could cause a loss in sales, like that's what these people who claim, you know, stop the Goodreads bullies, it's what they claim that we do, is we cause loss in sales. I don't think we do. I mean, fucking John Mulaney supports this woman, Kathleen Hale, and again, her husband's father is it's like a prominent part of network TV. I'm pretty sure that Kathleen still writes for like Netflix and still does journalism. Like if you really do not see the power dynamic between somebody like Kathleen Hale and a Goodreads reviewer, I don't know how to make you see sense. So that's the story of Kathleen Hale, who after publishing what seems to be a pretty shitty dark comedy YA thriller, stalked a Goodreads reviewer who gave her 1 star, claimed that the reviewer catfished her, showed up at the reviewer's house and left a book on her doorstep, called her repeatedly at her job, tried to villainize that reviewer, got the reviewer to leave the book blogging community after she had admittedly, at 14 years old, dumped an entire bottle of hydrogen peroxide on another girl's head for that girl making a sexual assault claim against her mother. And then instead of just saying, maybe I should take some time to self-reflect, she wrote a book about her stalking a reviewer, and she faced no consequences. So that's great. Worst case scenario. Leave any of your thoughts below. If you actually read Kathleen Hale's book, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but maybe don't leave them in my comment section. I wouldn't want her to stalk you. Fucking wild. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments down below, like and subscribe if you want to support my work that I do on this channel. I have a Ko-fi account link below. See you next time. Bye!